Hello again, Poke. Have you managed to make any progress since our last chat?
Well, I did take a long think about what you said and how you talked with me as well. I got thinking about the bullies, and after all the advice I received prior to our discussion, I decided it would be better to ignore what they say. Though I did say sometimes I feel fear inside. Half the time their insults are more humorous because they are unoriginal, to be honest. The way I see it, there are two kinds of bully. The type that creates petty insults just to get on your nerves, kind of like Diamond Tiara, and then there's the bullies that threaten you with harm or even death, like Trixie and Magic Jewel. I receive threats of harm nearly every day, so it's become almost a novelty. I know they don't actually have the guts to do it, but sometimes I'm oblivious to even my own thoughts of that.
Dealing with that kind of fear is certainly not easy, but it is good to know that you've managed to get a bit of a handle on it. I'm sure there are many others out there who can relate to having that fear in their lives. I was glad to see that you were willing to talk to some of our fellow analysts about it, though. Might I ask what prompted you to bring up that topic?
Well, at first it was simply me and Brawny Book talking about self-defense weapons like that and things like that. Then he asked why I would need such things, and that's when I brought it up. After that, it turned into about 5 analysts like Ryland, Cam, Persian and others giving me conflicting advice that I couldn't decide between. Brawny was in the camp that decided you should fight back. Cameron was in the camp that said violence isn't the answer, and Persian was in the middle, stating that violence isn't exactly the right answer, but if it comes that far then you should defend yourself. As I stated, I ultimately chose Cam's advice about knowing that I am better than them by not letting it get to me, because in reality, what they are saying isn't true. It's just the brain's perception that at the moment of bullying that it could be true, and this is why I believe that so many kids suffer greatly from bullying today.
Well, Poke, there is something that I had noticed when several of the other analysts were attempting to give you advice. Something that I would like to encourage more people to remember. Even though I'm quite certain that all of them meant well, I was a bit troubled to see just how little you were adding to the conversation. And honestly, this is something that many people tend to forget. In your case, you ended up feeling better about the situation when you felt understood. Regardless of whether anyone else is giving helpful advice, it is vital that a person feels understood before they will feel ready to be helped.
I would say the reason I didn't talk much, if at all, was because I wanted to hear what everyone had to say. Cameron stated that because everyone was giving conflicting advice it would confuse me greatly, but really I was taking in what everyone was saying because I can relate to it. Everyone in the collective trusts each other enough to bring up personal things like this, and I really wanted to get a firm grasp of what everyone thought before adding anything.
Well, Poke, I'm not going to pretend to understand everything that you're going through here. This is a very difficult subject for most anyone to have a solid answer for. Most everyone is going to have their own opinion on what is the best course of action, and while I would say that talking to others can be helpful for both the bully and the victim, I believe we should be focusing on how you can think any differently about the situation. It may be hard for us to accept at times, but we cannot control how others will think or react in our everyday lives. We can influence and even inspire, but we cannot control. Thus it becomes crucial for us to learn how to think and react to the unexpected, or even in situations where the natural response is to feel lost or hurt. You had mentioned that you were feeling very low before coming to talk to others about your circumstances, but on the following day you felt it worthwhile to help someone else when they needed to talk about something troubling. Might I ask what had changed?
Well, like I said, I realised that violence isn't really the answer, but if needed it may seem inevitable. I also began watching the Fine Bros Kids React to Bullying video and the Teens React to Bullying video too, and it got me thinking quite hard. I had felt better because I could talk to people about my troubles. I felt more informed on what to do from watching the videos and talking with my fellow analysts, but most importantly, I felt like a stronger person because I learned that they are really just people as insecure as they are trying to make me feel. When Cloudy Skies was talking to Ryland about a certain issue, I once again stayed relatively silent, until he came to the most important part of it. Then I basically did what you did with me in hopes that I could make him feel better, and for the most part, I had succeeded. I had discovered that because I had learned all this from YouTube and the analysts and even you, I was able to help a friend having personal issues, and I felt amazing for having the ability to do so.
I believe that there is a great strength that can come from putting aside your own needs while seeking to lift others. There is a comfort and peace in knowing that you serve a good purpose by being a listening ear, or a helping hand, or even just a warm smile. I am reminded of how the CMC have slowly managed to become more resistant to the bullying behavior of Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. They managed to help and uplift each other in many ways throughout the course of MLP. But while their camaraderie made them stronger, they still would falter along the way. It was a long process of having to deal with each new situation, given that Diamond Tiara has been particularly persistent with her mean-spirited behavior. Despite the occasional success, the CMC have never been able to stop that behavior outright, and this is something that I can really appreciate from MLP. The fact that Diamond Tiara has been a relentless problem with no clear answers. The CMC have managed to become stronger not because they were able to change Diamond Tiara, but rather because they have managed to change themselves. They uplifted one another to the point where they no longer felt so threatened by outside forces, and I'm sure that they still have very far to go. But I can respect how the writers have made the CMC into such great child characters that feel as though they are growing while still feeling like the same CMC. And there are moments in the series where we can learn from their examples. Does that make sense to you, Poke?
Indeed it does. As the CMC have progressed in gaining confidence, I have also progressed in gaining confidence by talking to my friends. For the CMC, it would seem the point where their confidence would be established prior to fight to the finish would be the end of one bad apple, since Bab's Seed defends the CMC from Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. As for me, it was being able to talk to the analysts about my issue and actually feeling like a stronger person the next day. In terms of the CMC, I would say I have the most relatability to Scootaloo. It has been theorised that she has a disability that prevents her flight. Though Flight to the Finish didn't confirm this, it didn't deny it either, so it is still a possibility. I can relate to Scootaloo the most because I sometimes have symptoms of a disability, which isn't actually affecting me as much as I would think. I would think that having something like it would prevent me from doing basically anything good. But here I am with nearly 250 subscribers and nearly 30 videos. I could potentially overcome any problems I may have. So with Scootaloo, it still raises the question whether she will be able to fly, not fly, or overcome a disability.
I'm glad to hear that you have come this far, and I hope that you will continue to find more self-confidence the more you discover your hidden talents. Almost like the CMC seeking their cutie mark, I'd say. But in the meantime, I hope that you will remember what we've talked about the next time you feel threatened by others. You may not be able to change how others behave, but you always have a choice when it comes to how you will react. Shall we continue on this next week?
Since we seem to have nothing else to talk about on the subject currently, I guess that would be best. So, I guess I'll see you next week, Dr. Wolf. I hope we can begin looking further into this conversation very soon.
I hope to hear about some positive changes in the near future. Enjoy your evening, Poke. It's good to be helping.